Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't join you all in person, but I'm grateful to be able to present remotely. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what, myself and the collaborations I'm involved in have been doing with outreach and public engagement with JWST. And so first, just to list a few examples. And so I'm mostly going to focus on talking about citizen science today. And so the next couple of slides are really about that. And I think citizen science is really a unique way to get the public involved in the scientific discourse, because with citizen science, they're not just consumers of information, of lessons, they are actually participating in science. And I think it's a great way to get people involved, get people to learn about, the scientific method as a whole, how science is actually done, and feel like they're contributing, concrete measurements and making their own discoveries. And then on the flip side, right, the scientists benefit from this immensely because it's a great way to get, measurements that are, crowdsourced amongst a bunch of people. And so it's a really, I think, really exciting way to get JWST science out into the public. But I also think there's a lot of other things that we all do on a day-to-day basis that don't necessarily have to be a part of large outreach endeavors that require a lot of funding, right? I think we all engage with the public in a number of ways while we're doing our science and sort of in our day-to-day, work. We've had a number of different campus exhibits and demos, for open houses and events like that, sort of those normal outreach events I think we all probably participate in. JWST is always really popular for this, right? Having a model of JWST, showing some posters. There's a lot of, incredible materials that other people have already worked really hard to develop that can be made use of for these types of events. I know a lot of us have probably given public talks. I think these are always very popular because a lot of people that have interest in science will come to hear about the latest discoveries from JWST, and they're interested in every aspect, right? From the design of the telescope to the instruments to the science that we're learning. And I think it's a great opportunities to reach a broad audience. And then on the science side, I think a lot of us have been involved in press releases of our own, scientific papers, news interviews when some exciting paper is out. I think we get contacted for quotes or to, hey, is this really as exciting as it sounds? Is this going to break cosmology? All these types of questions that we all get, which I think is a great responsibility on us for how to, portray our work to the general public, because I think people pay attention to these things. We get a lot of questions, when different press releases come out, oh, did you hear about this latest, discovery, that the JWST has made? And so I think, these are all things that we're all doing just as a part of our normal work, that we can, really keep in mind about how the public is perceiving JWST data and JWST science. Okay, so there's a couple of different citizen science projects I'm going to talk about. One is Galaxy Zoo. I think most people are probably familiar with Galaxy Zoo. It has been incredibly popular, starting with data from the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, extending into Hubble data, and now to JWST data. And so late last year, Galaxy Zoo launched with a JWST data set from the initial SEERS observations, the SEERS ERS data that were taken, in the first round of data. I believe this set has now been completely classified. And so this is, morphological classifications of galaxies from these images. And I think this has been completed. And the next task is to kind of analyze the results and then decide how to move forward, because the plan is to incorporate data from all of the public JWST surveys, including the rest of SEERS, Primer, Cosmos Webb, et cetera. And so all of these data sets will eventually be folded in. And Galaxy Zoo already has a wide audience because there's been such a huge following for many years doing classifications. And so I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention and to kind of keep your eyes open for results to come out from this pretty soon. There's actually a conference in Bern in about a month focusing just on this topic. So this is for imaging, right? Imaging is something I think that is easily accessible to the public. Everyone's excited to look at pretty pictures of galaxies, and I think it keeps people motivated to continue doing things like this. But I think what we've what we've seen, from today and what we've known, since the very, first press releases from JWST is that the imaging is spectacular, but the spectroscopy is really somewhere where the telescope shines. I think the capabilities of the spectroscopy is something that's blown all of us out of the water. But spectroscopy is something that I think is much harder for the public to engage with, right? It's not as accessible or easy to understand as imaging. And so we've started a new citizen science project called Redshift Wrangler, where the goal is to bring extragalactic spectroscopy to the public and have people become familiar with spectra, what they mean, what they measure, and help us make some very specific measurements from those spectra. So in particular, we show them a spectrum. They will mark emission features that they see, and we can use that information to then calculate redshifts for large samples of galaxies. And we have them look at spectral line fit and things like that. And so this project launched last summer. It doesn't have any JWST data in it yet. We initially kicked it off with some ground-based data from Keck and Subaru, but we'll be moving on to include JWST data very soon. And that's all I have. Thank you.